Hello, brothers and sisters. Today I'd like to talk about imprecatory psalms. Psalms where the author is calling down the judgment and the wrath of God to fall upon his enemies, the enemies of Israel. And of course, our first reaction is saying, wait, no, we're supposed to love our enemies. Jesus said so. So clearly, that's wrong. And we shouldn't fall down that trap, the same as people like C.S. Lewis did, saying those psalms were just men expressing themselves. False. All psalms are inspired. It is God expressing himself. God calling down his own wrath upon the enemies of Israel, because we have to understand Israel represents God. And these enemies are people who've hardened their hearts against God, want to attack him, and so they attack his people because God's not there. So that's why David in Psalm 69 can again call down this judgment of God upon his enemies because he represents God. He's the anointed of God, just like Jesus is. He's a type of Christ. And he's calling down the wrath against the enemies, those who harden their hearts and want nothing to do with God. So yes, Jesus on the cross did say, Father, forgive them, showing grace and mercy to his enemies. But don't forget that on the cross, we had two examples of these enemies. One was the one who repented and with a contrite heart asked for forgiveness, and he was forgiven. But the other stayed hardened all the way to the death of the cross, and therefore judgment is upon him. See, God is a just God, and we should not shy away from this truth. These Psalms remind us that those who harden their hearts against God will know his judgment, and that is good because that is part of who God is. And we want to focus too much on God's goodness and love to the detriment of rejecting God's justice, righteousness, and his judgment is wrong. And these Psalms remind us of that. And even for ourselves, they show us that we should come to God about our enemies, those who have harmed us. Of course, we put it in God's hand again, like Romans 12 tells us. Let God act. Some he will be merciful to and will be forgiven. Others will know his wrath because they hardened themselves. But again, we bring it back to God, though, because he's the righteous judge. So let's not be ashamed of these imprecatory psalms.